Discrimination and segregation. Separate is not equal. Segregation. We all know it, see it, feel it. We don't stop it. We do. It repeats, a cycle of separation. It never ends. What is it? Why? How does it even happen? The dictionary states that segregation is the action or state of setting someone or something apart from other people or things, or being set apart. A bit of a tongue twister, don't you think? But why? Because we don't like those shoes, that sport, that jacket. They don't fit in. They're not like us. They don't deserve it. We set them apart from us, sorting them into groups. Those groups shift into segregated buildings, communities, ghettos, prisons. It gets worse and worse until eventually people revolt. The rebels win, the government makes amends, and the cycle starts over. Again, but with different groups. Again, but at a different time. Again, but for a different reason. Regardless, it repeats. Throughout history, we see all the ugly shades of discrimination against different groups, some of which we still see today. In this presentation, we will focus on some of the various groups that have been persecuted throughout history and tie those events into occasions witnessed in this day and age. Black and white, Negro and Caucasian, a barrier of color. Racial segregation is the most problematic segregation in the United States. This goes all the way back to the Civil War, when African Americans were forced into slavery to work for white people. Everyone knows what happened back then. But what about after? What did they do after they were free? Well, after the war, Reconstruction started. Abraham Lincoln had many ideas for Reconstruction, but after he was assassinated, the new president, Andrew Johnson, had different ideas. Although Johnson's ideas were a bit like Lincoln's, he didn't want the blacks to be a part of this Reconstruction. So blacks were freed, but then they were given no part in the community and didn't really know what to do. But they did have the 3 amendments that gave blacks a right. The 13th Amendment formally abolished slavery in all the states and territories. The 14th Amendment prohibited states from depriving any male citizen of equal protection under the law, regardless of race. And the 15th Amendment granted all African American citizens the right to vote. Giving them the right to vote was a huge stepping stone for African Americans all over. There were so many things that they still couldn't do, though. These were called the Black Codes. The Black Codes permitted jobs and governmental things to black people. For example, blacks could not testify against white people in court. Giving blacks more rights made many people angry, this including the group of the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK, as it's more commonly known, was very political and did not like how they were giving blacks more rights. Even though the only thing that blacks really had was the right to vote and freedom, using the term very loosely because not being able to have equal rights is not freedom. Racism today has developed and changed a lot since 1867. Now African Americans have equal rights and black codes have been disbanded. However, there is still racism going on. It may not be separate bathrooms and water fountains, but rather passive-aggressive insults and slurs, more discrimination and judgment than physical separation. The land of the free, where freedom is a given and opportunity is endless. Or, as its citizens know it, America. With the promise of options and freedoms unknown to many other countries, many outsiders desire U.S. citizenship. However, they are not always welcomed with open arms. With overpopulation becoming a rather large issue, not to mention the dangers of terrorism on the rise, many are against letting large amounts of people into America. This is why there are limits on how many immigrants are allowed into the country per year, and why those laws are so strict. Now, this is not a bad thing. It's how we can sleep at night knowing we are safe. Nonetheless, the treatment of said immigrants in the past has been, to say the least, less than stellar. They've had to deal with disrespect, slurs, and of course, segregation. All because they wanted to attain the freedom given out to U.S. citizens at birth. During the post-Civil War era, many people were coming from Asia and Europe for better opportunities and the way of life offered in America. The large influx of immigrants started becoming an issue after 1945 when the immigrants coming in were more diverse due in part to the economy, World War II, and America's role in internal affairs. Most problematic were the numbers of people coming in from Mexico, as there were just too many. The U.S. tightened border control, and getting into the country to become a citizen was and is still quite the process. Ellis Island, New York City, New York, opened in 1892 and became overflowed with immigrants coming through to the country. Even when they made it through the process of becoming a citizen, they were treated poorly by U.S.-born citizens. Today, we have people risking their lives to get over our borders, to get over the barrier that lies between them and boundless opportunities unavailable to them in their country of origin. However, we can't know who these people are, what their background is, or exactly why they wanted to come to America. Without that knowledge, they are a threat to the country and its citizens. Those who do make it through check-in today are still at a disadvantage, as they have to learn the language, pay a considerable entrance fee, and face noticeable tension in law enforcement. So, while legal immigrants aren't discriminated today as they were era Ellis Island, they are certainly still not completely treated equally, nor with the same sympathy as seen with U.S.-born citizens. Religious persecution is the mistreatment of a person with religion. For example, the British persecuted the Catholics for believing in God. So did the Ku Klux Klan. Previously, we said they persecuted blacks and were very political. In the 1920s, however, they started persecuting Catholics. They would advocate against the provision of federal funds to Catholic parochial schools and Catholic teachers. The KKK hated change in the community, and they thought that any group that was trying to change the world around them was a threat, which is why they decided to persecute the Catholics. Another example of this mistreatment would be the Holocaust, when the Jews were persecuted because Hitler thought that the Jews were a threat to Germany. There have been countless other genocides against a certain religion for the same reason, just because it wasn't the perpetrator's beliefs. This practice of discriminating has been around since biblical times and is still going on today. We see this with people that practice the Islamic religion. Lately, their churches have been getting bombed due to hate crimes. This is a disgusting thing, and the fact that after so many years we still have to deal with it is just not okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to our feature of the largest segregated group in history, women. Before you groan at the thought of yet another feminist speech, remember we're talking about the past as well. Everyone knows what happened. Women were reduced to housewives, with few jobs available to them for little pay. They were not allowed to vote and were not respected if they didn't have a husband. This was how it used to be until they stood up. They started women's suffrage, which is a good thing, but it sounds horrible. They marched and protested until they were awarded the 19th Amendment, the right to vote. With this right came confidence to do their own thing, so the women stood up for themselves and made their lives equal to that of men. Currently, we have a movement known as #MeToo, which is a nationwide protest against sexual harassment and sexism against women. Its main focus is rape, but it's used to express other feminist viewpoints as well. Women march in the streets today for equal pay, though they are now given every opportunity men are given, every right and job. They don't follow stereotypes or even comply with the ladylike behavior. Though suffrage is far gone and over, the fighting spirit in women, evidently, is not. This group is segregated by a barrier of lies and confusion, a metaphorical wall they cannot climb over nor pass through. Many LGBTQ Americans have said in their lifetimes they faced harassment and discrimination in public due to their personal preferences. In 28 states in America, there are no non-discrimination laws or protections for LGBTQ individuals, 3 with limited protections / non-discrimination laws, and 20 with full protections and non-discrimination laws. The 31 states that don't have full protection give amnesty to the people who victimize LGBTQ personalities. In addition to the states with or without the before stated laws, some states still hadn't legalized same-sex marriage. In fact, before the Supreme Court ruling overruled state laws and officially legalized same-sex marriage, only 31 states had legalized it. The discrimination against this community has infected our government. Many people feel the prejudice stacked up against them, feel pain due to harassment. Kids in schools are bullied because of it. People trying to get a job aren't hired because of it. Civilians in public get glared and gossiped about because of it. It? Who they love, who they feel a connection with. Why is that so bad? So bad that others feel the need to spoil them with snarky remarks. So bad that others feel the need to encase them in judgy stereotypes. And to what avail? And then These are the questions the persecuted groups ask themselves. They ask these in vain, hopelessly waiting for an answer which will not be given. So, to answer the question stated at the beginning, why? Because they are different. What is it? It is lashing out at other individuals because of why. How does it even happen? Because the why and the what strain together in a swirl of hatred and confusion, which solidifies into its most known form, segregation.